Hey guys, I had to come on and talk to you. I just finished watching a video. Now, Simon did a Vice interview, and he's a reporter that reports up in Tokyo. He did this article on Japanese schoolgirls, how they sell themselves, and from what I'm seeing on the internet, it was published in July. Now, the problem that I have with it is, first of all, from what he said and the guy that he also spoke with on it. I'm going to leave it in the section below so you guys can go watch it. What he said was that Japan is one of the most misogynist countries in the world, and that he would hate to be a woman in Japan. Yet they completely skate over the fact that the reason why we have herbivore men's here is because the way women treat men. And what these guys completely overlook is the fact that in the family dynamic in Japan, what you end up with is mothers use the fathers to make money. Fathers pay other girls out in places to sit and talk with them. A lot of times these girls, all they want is a father figure or somebody to talk with them. In many cases, the mother has divorced the father for money reasons and because she is just a bitch. So the daughter is home alone with only the mother. And the mother, she sees, in some cases these mothers end up being what's known as a hostess here in Japan, where they work for a club and men come in and talk to them. And they see that the way to get a fatherly influence is by talking to these men. And they know that these men find schoolgirls attractive. So in many cases, sometimes they're in their 20s. But Japanese women tend to look very young, even though they're older. They could be in their 30s. When I met my wife, my first Japanese wife, she was 31, but my parents thought she was 16 because she had never been, she'd never had any children, and she was very skinny. So what also you end up finding is many times in Japan, girls at school are very well off. As I've said before, many times in schools in Japan you have to have a lot of money, and your parents have to have a lot of money to send you to a good school. And sometimes these kids are going to those schools, but they don't have as much money as the other kids. And the other kids are rocking Burberry, Louis Vuitton, things like that. So these kids ask their parents for that. They want some Louis Vuitton shoes or some Aramis bags or something like that, so they can go out to McDonald's with their other friends and show their flashy stuff, their Rolex watch and things like that, their iPad and things like that. And their parents tell them no, like maybe they're not getting good school grades or something like that. So their way of rebelling is to go out to these clubs to be hired. They lie about their age. They say, first of all, they don't say they're 16. Most of these places won't hire you unless you're 18. They just want you to act like you're 16. So they will actually get hired. They don't really check their IDs that much because they don't. Most of these clubs don't have like porn areas. They're not able to come to the club. I mean, there are some clubs in Japan that have places to go have sex with women. But most of the time, you have to leave and go to what's known as a love hotel. Now, if you go off-site with a man and you go to a love hotel with him, that's on you. That's not on the club. And the money that you make from that isn't given to the club. So a lot of the times these girls will sleep with guys, but most of the time what ends up happening is they'll find somebody that's a fanboy. They'll speak with him and he'll come to the club all the time. He wants to have sex with her, but they don't actually. Japan's not the kind of culture that would allow you to just out and out say to a girl, I want to fuck you. So they just talk, and they talk about very mundane things, just daily life. Most of the time, my second wife, was actually a hostess. And most of the time what they talk about is how bad their wife is, and how they hate their home life, and how they hate their work, and how they wish they could do something else with their life. And they just want, like I've told you before, wives don't tend to want to listen to their husbands. They don't really give a fuck about their husbands. So they actually have to pay a woman to listen to them. And this is actually very therapeutic for the man, but for the woman, for the girl, what ends up happening is she can make money off of this. He ends up having a shoulder to cry on, basically. And he can go to these clubs and he will bring gifts for these girls. So a lot of times that Louis Vuitton bag, that Aramis, even money, things like that, they'll make from these men. And they'll be able to say, like, I want the new Louis Vuitton bag. And while they're having the conversation with the man, they end up saying stuff like that. So what ends up happening, this misogynist, bullshit, feminist culture that this white knight is talking about, is actually women using men. They have learned from their mother and from what their father does by going out to hostess clubs and paying other people to talk to him. They've figured out very young that, oh, my sexuality is for sale. I can make money with my sexuality by exploiting men. And that's what they do. Men, of course, would like to have sex with a young woman. Look at how many guys all over the world are in their 50s and they're dating like 21-year-old girls, you know. There's all kinds of things going on like that. And it's not an unseen thing, you know. If you're 18 and you're married or dating a 40-year-old man that's a businessman and making millions of dollars, most people don't say like, oh, he's awful. But 2 more years before that, she was 16 and he was still in his 30s, and now he's all of a sudden creepy, you know. So the fact is, it has nothing to do with misogyny. It has everything to do with hypergamy. And these girls have learned from watching their mother and watching their father, and you can see in the video, the girl talks about her mother was having problems psychologically, that their parents were fighting, and because of that, she went out and started working as basically a prostitute. But she didn't know it was going to be a prostitute. But I would imagine she found out that the guy told her, this is where it gets into personal problems. Okay, this has nothing to do with the culture of what's going on here. It has to do with the personal culture, what she went through. She has a weak constitution, and somebody offered her a lot of money, and she accepted it. And she went into a love hotel and had sex with somebody. And then, just like a woman in America, she doesn't want to be known as a prostitute, so she says she was a victim. You know, the fact is, if you want to have sex with a man and you get paid for having sex with a man, if you feel like a victim afterwards, sorry, you shouldn't have done it. There's a lot of things in people's lives, sexual and otherwise, that you feel that you shouldn't have done. There's a lot of things in my life that I wish I wouldn't have done, but I'm not a victim because of it. I don't get that luxury of saying I was a victim. I was stupid. I shouldn't have done it. But this victim mentality that these women have, and that these white knight manginas allow them to spout off, allows these people, you can just see it exudes from these guys. They're in this culture where they act like if they didn't white knight for these girls, that they wouldn't have girls hanging around them. You know, that being a simp is what these girls want, and they're just devouring that hypergamy. They love it, you know. And I find it, I had to make a video on this because it's just, there's so much in it that is complete horseshit and wrong. And like I say, if you have the idea that what's going on is, you have your idea already. Like, if you're wanting to sit down and speak with a high school girl then you're a creeper. That's their starting point. You know, they don't look past that, and they look to a feminism for the answer. So it's feminism, it's creepy guys wanting to speak with young girls. Now let's find what makes that true. And they don't look at the actual facts. They don't take all of the facts of what's going on in the Japanese culture, put it all together, and then go, ah, that's why it's happening. They don't care about that. And that's why you have so many people here trying to make the herbivore men look bad. And they try to say that, oh, herbivore men are just herbivore men because they're too sad to talk to women and things like that. Well, a lot of these herbivore men, actually, some of them go to these clubs and they speak with women, and that actually makes them every once in a while they go to these clubs, and it makes them more likely to not be with a woman, because they kind of, every once in a while, they just want to see if what they're thinking about Japanese women is right. And when they go into these clubs, they find out it is. And then in some cases, and this is something that he didn't talk about, that there's also school boys. There's many clubs in Japan, very, very like expensive clubs, where Japanese, heavy-set, older Japanese women will pay to speak with high school boys or very young boys. And they have like these weird funky hairdos and shit like that. And it's the same thing. These boys want to have a cool, flashy life, and no, they don't sleep with these old women, but these old women hope that they do. So they sit down and they buy the men drinks, and in some cases they slap down $10,000 a night to just sit and talk with these boys. Same thing happens with the girls. It's no more misogynistic than the boys having it done to them. And they only focus on the girls because girls are all that matter when you're a white knight. So I'll leave it in the section below. You guys can go watch it and see what I'm talking about. Yeah, share, like, and subscribe. Leave your comments in the section below. Thanks for watching, guys. See you.